It's true that we've been producing more food per person than ever before, but the state that we are in terms of production has come with huge costs in terms of the environment. So in terms of climate change, food systems contribute a third of all the emissions. So if we want to keep climate change under control, we need to take food systems transformation seriously. In addition to that, we've seen biodiversity loss, we've seen depletion of natural resources. We have all these issues, and in addition to that, in society, we're seeing massive inequity with malnutrition growing and at the same time obesity growing. So while we are good at producing more food, that food is not necessarily delivering us the goals we have on climate, on the environment, and on equity. So things are changing. There are examples of innovations out there. But often what happens is that you see pilots never fail, but they never scale. So we don't see these innovations, these examples being mainstream. And I think it's all about mainstreaming. We need to be in a position where these exceptions become the norm. And that's really what the transformation is all about. The definition of transformation is a third change in either inputs or outputs. So can we get these innovations out there to scale so that at least a third of food production, consumption, distribution, one of those elements is changing? Then we can say that transformation has occurred. So in the report, which we have launched 1 year ago exactly, and it has been downloaded lots of times, over 40,000 times, there are lots of different organizations which are using the report, and that's really what we would like to see. We produced this report hoping that it can lead to that transformation, and we're seeing that happening. Within the report, we propose 4 key areas in which we can take action for transformation. So these are rerouting our existing pathways to climate resilient and sustainable pathways, reducing emissions in key areas. It's de-risking supply chains and livelihoods of people who are dependent on farming, as well as realigning the supporting systems of policies and innovations and finance to enable this transition. So there are 4 key areas. But more than the areas, what's interesting is what is actually happening now in these areas, because those are concepts. We need to take it to action. And 1 year from then, when we launched the report, I'm seeing a lot of traction. So the 2 examples that I really think about is, one is the work that we're doing with the World Economic Forum and partners as part of the preparations to the Food Systems Summit, where we're looking at really reaching 100 million farmers with climate resilient, low emissions technologies and practices, which can enable a nature positive, net zero pathway for farming. So that's a really inspiring example that I see, because we have proposed in the report a target to reach 200 million, because that's what we believe need to happen if we are getting transformation. We can always have a 1 million project which is focusing on these sort of technologies and approaches, but we need to get to scale, and I think this work can deliver that scale. The other piece that I really think about is in the report we talk about transforming innovation systems. So over $56 billion gets spent every year on agricultural research and development. How is that really underpinning what we need to see in terms of transformation rather than business as usual? So this is work that we're doing with the UK's Foreign, Commonwealth and Development Office in the lead up to COP26, the climate conference, where we are working together with the UK as the COP president, as well as a number of partners, to change the way that we innovate in the face of climate change. So this is again actioning one of the recommendations in the report. So I think it's more than what's written in the report in terms of concepts and frameworks and pathways. It's how we take that forward. And
many have said that a transformation is required in food systems. But the key question is where in the complexity of these food systems are the best levers to achieve change? This exact question was the one that we addressed through the transformation report, and therefore we presented 4 action areas with 11 specific and concrete actions within these 4 areas. But we didn't stop in there. For each one of these 11 actions, we addressed the what, the how, the where, and the who. And I truly believe that this specificity became the magic to trigger global action through our partners. Just to name a few: the United Nations World Food Programme, the World Business Council for Sustainable Development, the Foreign Commonwealth and Development Office from the UK government. All these institutions had used the recommendations arising from the transformation report to build their own strategies for transformation. This transformation report is not a research product generated by us researchers for others to use. On the contrary, it is a truly collaborative work where a number of stakeholders join forces to understand what is needed to trigger this transformation.
Many thanks for inviting me to this big celebration. It's been a year since the huge, significant report on transforming food systems under climate change. So I may be biased, but I still think it's a great report, and those 11 areas touch exactly on the points that we should be focusing, particularly now looking at the summit, the Food System Summit, and many other things. So from the Commission of Sustainable Agriculture Intensification that I chair, CoSAI, for us the report was kind of the framework. We used those 11 areas to frame the big questions that we want to answer during the work of the Commission that ends in December 2021. And those are 5 key questions that they are very connected to the 11 areas of action. One is to really measure how much is being invested into innovation for sustainable intensification. Another one will be what's the funding gap between that benchmark and what we need. Another one is to have concrete case studies and pathways on what are the successful cases of innovation for sustainable ag transformation. Another key one will be to say what are the mechanisms, the how, what are the innovative mechanisms for make those investments happen. And the final one is the metrics. If we don't have clear indicators, we are not going to be able to monitor any progress. So it's been a fantastic year after that report. I'm sure the report will be remembered for a long time, and I hope that there will be a lot of actions based on that report. At least from us in the Commission, we are really following up all of those fantastic guidelines. So congratulations, and I hope you had a great celebration. Thank you very much.
The Transformation Report provides clear pathways for a more hopeful future for African agriculture in a changing climate. It is comprehensive, set at the right tone, and with a very high level of ambition. I am particularly excited about 2 elements of the action plan. The first one being on empowering farmer and consumer organizations, women and youth. As we are aware, farmers and consumers are by far the largest 2 groups of actors in complex food systems. Their sheer size make them the most influential and thus potentially the main drivers of the change that is needed at scale. However, it is not possible to reach them one by one. Hence the necessity of reaching out to them through their representative structures. With respect to women and youth, needless to say that the majority of the smallholder farmers are women, and that youth are both the farmers as well as the consumers of the future. Thus, in a way, dealing with the future now. Secondly, the focus on digital and airborne climate-informed services is spot on.
So I've been working in this area of climate change for more than a decade. And in this decade, I've seen waves of new concepts coming in. They come and then they go. And I just hope that transformation is not one of them that came. There were reports out there and then they disappeared. Because it's not about concepts here. It's about action that needs to happen. And we have an opportunity this year. This year is considered the super year for food, climate and nature. We have the COP26 conference, we have the UN Food System Summit, we have the UN Biodiversity Summit. So there is momentum to bring people together this year, to convene people and get things done. But we really should get away from launching another concept or initiative to actually getting action on the ground, because that's what's missing. So I would say I am hopeful, provided we do what we need to do.